E360 TV proudly presents Messages of Inspirational Stories TV show. Live streaming now to millions of devices around the world on Roku, Apple TV, Amazon Fire TV, Android TV, YouTube Live, Facebook live streaming. Our shows are available video on demand on these channels. And we broadcast daily, Monday through Friday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time on these channels. On Mondays, Expanding Your Business. Tuesdays, Finding Health Naturally. Wednesdays, Mentoring Our Youth. Thursdays, Pets We Love. And on Fridays, Women in Leadership. Brought to you by our producers and hosts, Jim Grant and Donna Guinois. Along with our host, Beata Severin Reed and Emerson Brantley. Supported by our admin team of Michaela Vidal and Gaia Guinois Balconi Weda. And welcome to the show, ladies and gentlemen. We had some technical issues, and I'll tell you right now, I didn't know whether or not we were going to be able to get this thing going or not. I tell you, technology is great till it doesn't work. But welcome to the show. The Messages of Inspirational Stories is proudly brought to you by the good guys at the 6-Minute Webinar and Mr. Bill Heinrich's book, The 7 Levels of Truth. You'll be seeing the banners down there as we go on. But I want to welcome to the stage a good friend of mine. He's been on here before. We nickname him the Beard of Knowledge. And I got to tell you a little bit something about Joel. We go back several years, and I'm really impressed with his story on where he came from. He's a former Marine, and I'm going to let him share his story, because we're going to be talking today about alternative health and medicine and all that good stuff, aren't we?
Hello,
welcome
Jim.
to the show.
Thank you for the invitation. We sure
Thank
are.
you, sir. Now you see why I call him the Beard of Knowledge. He has a lot of experience in this thing. And the thing that we really like about, people that we have on the show, they have skin in the game. That's critical. It really is. So why don't you share a little bit about your background story, where you came from, because you were very ill at one time, and I'll let you take the mic.
Yeah, I back in 2014, I started to get sick. Fingers started to get numb, and hands got a little numb, and I started to go to the VA, check in with them, and they ran all the tests and said I was okay. And then by 2015 rolls around, I lost so much weight. I was about 135 pounds, and Mom literally moved in to start feeding me by hand, and they still couldn't figure out what was wrong. So that was when I got into Whole Foods and started to talk with those employees about how to deal with all this stuff and supplements. And one of them was like, you got to get away from the VA or you're going to die, point blank. The VA hospital figure out what was wrong. So they got me to the Healthy Beginnings magazine, and in the back it had those alternative doctors, those woo-woo doctors like some of the doctors at hospitals call. And I got a hold of Dr. William Clearfield, who's now been a Doctor of Osteopathic Medicine for 45 years, and he's also an acupuncturist with the French and the Japanese style acupuncture. And a few years back, he became a traumatic brain injury specialist, studying Dr. Mark L. Gordon's process. And then I also have been volunteering with him for 8 years now. And during this process, he's developed quite a process of monitoring the hormones in the brain. And we're now learning that the hormones from the gut and the hormones from the neurites in the gut and the neurites in the heart communicate to the neurites in the brain. It's vice versa of what we think. So psychiatry and psychology has a lot of people believing that it's in your head. It's actually in your gut, and it's actually in your heart. And when you fix those two, you stabilize the brain, and the mind gets better. It's not the other way around.
That's amazing. That is absolutely amazing. And you've been with Dr. Clearfield. You work with him. How many years now? About
Eight,
seven,
8 years
eight?
now, actually. This year will be the 8th year.
Wow. That was a blessing in disguise. And as I understand the story, if I remember correctly, that ad that was in that alternative magazine, he didn't recall putting it in there, did he?
No, he did put it in
It
the
was kind
ad,
of a,
but it said
mhm.
VA approved. He said he never put that in there. He wouldn't have even known how
Oh,
to.
that's,
Yeah,
yeah,
that blew me away.
that's
So
amazing.
divine intervention for
Yeah,
sure. There's a lot of synchronicities that have helped
yeah.
this whole process. It's
Oh,
absolutely mind
yeah, absolutely. And the day you wanted to share some information about alternative medicine and things like that, because from your background, you had to make some changes. The
correct.
status quo was that was, yeah, I don't want to say prescribed for you, but set up for you, the pathway you were, kind of like destined to follow, did not have the answers for you, did it?
Not even close. Not
Hmm.
even close. I would have died. It's as simple as that. I was
Wow.
withering away.
Hmm.
I was
Hmm.
withering away, and my testosterone was incredibly low, and my estrogen was
Hmm.
incredibly high. Besides being suicidal, I just if
Hmm.
no way I was going to live that way for very long, and I
Wow.
just wanted. I didn't want to be a burden to the family,
Hmm.
and I figured I'd end up in a wheelchair if I
Hmm.
lived.
Hmm.
And I got to Dr. Clearfield, and he checked my hormones and found out that they were incredibly off, and he
Hmm.
stabilized them. And within a couple of weeks, boom, it was like night and day. It was like
Hmm.
night and day. It was absolutely amazing. And
Hmm.
then he started actually doing 2 acupuncture treatments a week to stabilize me even faster. Usually you only need 1, or you can go once or twice a month. The
Hmm.
Chinese do once a week usually.
Hmm.
But he was doing it twice a week, and he stabilized me within about a month. It was as if the ADD and the PTSD and everything went away, and I was starting to get my appetite back big time.
Wow.
Right.
That's really amazing. You mentioned acupuncture there, and I've had some experience with acupuncturists. And those of you folks out there in TV land that's ever suffered from a sciatic nerve, you know what a pain that thing is.
Right.
And for those of you that never, if you've never experienced, I hope you never do, because I was suffering from a sciatic nerve, and the doggone thing, I was laying on ice packs. By the time I get that thing finally eased off, I've got to get up and go to the restroom, and then I come back, and it's just a cycle. By the time you try to get it semi eased off, you got to go back to the restroom. And I went to the chiropractor, and yeah, I knew better than muscle relaxers. I knew that would not do me any good.
Right.
And the chiropractor gave me a little bit relief, but it came back. I go there, pop, feel good. Okay, yeah. And then, next day I start going down again. So I started going to the acupuncturist, and he felt my pulse. And you know what he told me, Joel? He says, "Your problem's not in your back, your problem's in your neck." And I
Wow.
looked at him and I thought, come on now. And he is from Vietnam. Uh, Me being a Vietnam veteran, we had that automatic bond there. And his mother and grandmother taught him the art of acupuncture. And I'm laying on my back, and he comes in, he presses on my neck. He says, "You feel that there?" And I said, "Yeah." He says, "You injured that many years ago, didn't you?" I said, "Yes, I did."
Wow.
And I remembered exactly where I was, what happened when I injured it. I had a steel pot on my head in Vietnam. I had a radio on my back. I just hopped out of a helicopter and just, when I landed, just all that weight, just kind of,
Right.
yeah, got a kink in my neck. So, being a young guy, I was 21 in 1969, and I figured, well, I come back in, my neck's a little sore. What do I want to do? I want to take a shower and get a beer. I don't want to go, I don't want to go to the hospital with a sore neck. And that's where it started. And then he rolled me over on my side. He pressed in between my shoulder blades. He says, "Now you feel that?" He said, "Yeah." I said, yeah. And he says, that's where it's centered down. He says, now it's gone down and putting pressure on your sciatic nerve. I said, okay. And he said, we can get that fixed. Otherwise, you're going to be bent over and walking like this, like an old person. That's okay. Honest to goodness. In the back of my hand, right in between the two bones here, right in that area there, he put one pin in, and people ask me, does that hurt? And no, it doesn't hurt. I mean, you feel a little ping like a mosquito bite or something, but it's not anything severe or anything. And then he walked around, and I'm laying on my back. He pressed on my neck. I didn't feel anything. He pressed in between my shoulders and didn't feel anything. He says, I got it, didn't? I said, yeah, I guess so. He says, now lift your left leg. I could lift my left leg with no pain. I thought, wow, are you kidding me? And he told me, he says, 3-4 trips here, that's all you're going to need, Yeah, I think I was going once every 4 or 5 days or something like that.
Yeah.
It was a little bit more often than once a week. If I came on a Monday, I went on a Friday and Tuesday and whatever. But anyway, it's and that's one way of alternative medicine that I found it works for me. And Joel, you've had Dr. Clearfield treat you with acupuncture, and what was your first experience when I walked in? There were a lot of, because my chiropractor, my acupuncturist is from Vietnam. So naturally, a lot of his clients is Asian people.
Right.
And I'm in there with all these Asian people, and I'm one of the few with this. Yeah. And I thought, what am I doing here?
Right.
It just struck me. I wasn't ready for it, and, but after that experience, I was plumb proud. I mean, my goodness, I've told many people, hey, if you're living in pain, at least give it a try, because and my brother went to an acupuncturist on my referral. He said the same thing. They feel the pulse, and they can tell what's going on in your body. Wow, that's amazing. Now, I'm going to let you share your story about Dr. Clearfield and what he recommended. Was this your first time at being with acupuncture?
Yeah, definitely. Well, actually, no, it was my second time. There was another Dr. Tara Finley here. She's an Oriental doctor, Oriental medicine doctor.
Right.
She's American. Right. And she started doing some acupuncture on me. So that was the first time I experienced it. And I got a little bit of relief, but I was still having heartburn problems, and we weren't addressing the hormones. So so I'm going to Whole Foods. I'm now starting to go to her. And that was when, they knew, the people at Whole Foods knew I was going to her and still going to the VA. And that's when they said, here, look at this magazine. And I got to Dr. Clearfield. And so I finally decided to go with him. She agreed. And I switched over to Doc. And it was the hormones. It wasn't so much the acupuncture. You can, first off, that's a great point. And this is what happens when people start chasing all these different modalities. That was why I wanted to bring up alternative, because it is all encompassing, and it is hard at first because people don't even know what a DO is. And usually you find out what a DO is when you're in trouble. Okay. Because DOs, they technically go to school for 10 years. And the extra years they go to school, they learn nutrition, some homeopath, and some supplements, and what Big Pharma coins alternative medicine. And also part of osteopathic medicine is manipulation, is chiropractic manipulation. They don't call it chiropractic, but that's Dr. Palmer broke away from the osteopath school and created the Palmer chiropractic school.
Yes.
So with Dr. Clearfield, he does a Japanese and a French style type acupuncture that he learned from this top acupuncturist at Harvard University. And she was one of the best, and I should get her name for the next interview, doggone it, and look her up and study her suit. But they are more individual, and they they also work with nerves. So he'll do exactly what you just said. He'll pinch and feel certain nerves or pulses, and that means to stick needles in other areas.
Yes.
Okay. And then you have auriculotherapy. Auriculotherapy is the little needles now that go into the ear. And a lieutenant colonel from the Air Force came to Dr. Clearfield to study this and have him implement a program for the Air Force. It was actually pretty powerful. And it's amazing. We've had people walk in with migraines and it goes away immediately. We've had success with tinnitus. We've had success with certain pains because a lot of your nerves end up in your ears. So, but it's considered alternative, and it's you have traditional medicine, you have conventional medicine, and you have alternative medicine. Traditional medicine is thousands, if not tens of thousands of years old, and that includes acupuncture. Conventional medicine is a couple hundred years old, and it's based off of responding to something and working on it and keeping it at bay with pills and also vaccines. And then you have alternative, which is, ironically, people say chiropractics and acupuncture is alternative, but they even use that in the VA now. So it's part of conventional. It's part of conventional medicine now. Okay.
Yeah, because I got to tell you a story about me when I was after I came back from Vietnam. I was stationed in Fort Huachuca, Arizona, and I knew my dad had went to a chiropractor for a back injury that he had received on the job, and the guy was a Palmer graduate. You know, he made that distinction. He was a Palmer graduate, and Dad really had a lot of success with him. So this neck of mine flared up again. And so I went on sick call, you know, being a young kid, not knowing anything. And they gave me some muscle relaxers. And the ones they gave me, if someone asked me, because this happened to me, what time is it? It's, and I had to stop and concentrate to be able to just tell them what is on my watch, you know, just a plain, you know, watch. And, you know, it just really got to me. And so I figured, well, on the spur of the moment, now this is 1970, folks.
Wow.
I looked in the Yellow Pages, found a chiropractor. He was a Palmer graduate. I said, okay, fine. He was retired. He was working out of his house. Now, this is in Sierra Vista, Arizona, at a mobile home park called Cloud 9. So some of you folks out there in Arizona will say, hey, I know about that. Anyway, I go in there. He's got a real nice, you know, mobile home, but he's got an addition built on to it. It fit. I mean, it's perfectly. It just, you know, you could tell, it just matched the mobile home. And that's where he had his office. And he checked me out. He put the little buzzer in my hand. He did his marks on my back and all that. And he says, I can help you. He says, it's going to be a little tight for a few days, but it's going to start, you're going to feel some relief right away. It's okay. And he cracked that thing, and when he did, it felt good. You know, I could tell that he undid what was twisted there. And he charged me $5. Now, this is a 1970, folks. Now, this is back when gasoline was like 40 cents a gallon, 48 cents a gallon, you know. So anyway, he was retired. He's working out of his house. He didn't have any overhead. He just did it. And he said, Vietnam, I think he might have given me a break because I was a Vietnam veteran, because he asked me, says, how long you been here? I said, I just got here. I just came back from Vietnam. So he may have given me a break. I don't know. But anyway, funny thing was, I went back and I had those muscle relaxers, and some of my buddies, I think the statute of limitations ran out on this. Some of my buddies says, hey, wait, you still got those muscle relaxers? I said, yeah, they're up there in my, you know, closet there. What are you going to do with them? I said, I ain't going to do anything with them. I don't want them dumb things. Well, would you consider selling them? I said, well, yeah. I sold them to him for $5, so I got my money back and got healed in the same deal. So I guess you might say a good time was had by all.
Right. That's amazing.
But yeah, it really is. But back in those days, where I was going with that long, boring story, folks, is that back in those days, if you mention a chiropractor to the medical doctor, I mean, they looked at you like you're talking about a witch doctor with garlic and chicken bones around her neck or something. I don't know, but they looked at you were going to a voodoo thing. They
Right.
were very ignorant.
Yeah, I can only imagine. It's
Yeah.
there, and people are finding out there's a long-standing history here, and it was created by Big Pharma.
Yes.
It was, we now know that for a fact, and it was done deliberately, and it was done deliberately to create what has been created now. And because of COVID, there's a whole lot of people that don't want to go to hospitals no more and don't want to go to regular doctors. So Dr. Clearfield, he's booked 3 months out. Dr. Fong, he's booked 3 months out. I mean, these doctors are starting to be hard to get now because everybody wants to get them. And we also believe that 5G is doing more than what we thought. So it's really, that's it. I think a lot of you out there can understand that people are a little bit crazier. They're a little bit less patient. The driving today, when I left Dr. Clearfield's, a lady, I was stopped at a stop sign to go right onto the main road, and she pulls right behind me. And just as I was getting ready to pull out, bam, she runs into me. It was a Jeep, so I didn't care. I just kept going. I didn't want to play the whole game. She didn't do no damage, but she just wasn't paying attention. And so it's really crazy what's going on.
It really is. It's really sad because I remember back, years ago in Texas, they talked about drive friendly and drive defensive. And now everybody is just wanting to just be at everybody else's throats.
Yeah.
And I tell you, we could stop that. All we got to do is just say, I'm not going to participate in that nonsense. And for years, now when I was younger, if I'm sitting at a stoplight, someone blow the horn at me, it'd make me a little mad. Now I wouldn't give them a sign or anything like that with my hand, but it, upset me. But for the last, 25 years or 30 years, whatever it is, if I'm sitting there at a stoplight, because it's a proven fact, the second car will always see the light faster than the first car. And if I hear a beep, beep on the horn, I just throw up my hand and wave and I'm gone. Thank you.
Amen.
Get out of the person's way, and, it's just one thing too, we're getting off a little bit on a little bit of a soapbox here, but I'm going to say it. I don't watch these road rage things or anything like that, but I've seen a couple of them. And a lot of them, ladies and gentlemen, if someone's trying to merge, back off and give the guy or the lady some room.
Agreed.
Because most of the road rage, the person's trying to get up there, their vision is not that good out the left-hand side of the car, especially when they're coming at an angle. It really isn't. So just back off, give them room. And then the person who has got the legal right of way is going to force the issue. And tempers flare. I'm going like, that's stupid.
It is.
I mean, it only takes you a few seconds to give somebody a break. And you don't have all that tension, all that energy just boiling up inside, negative energy. Because let's face it, it comes from one place.
Yeah.
It comes from the sorry gates of hell. I'll say it, because that's where it generates from. That's where all hate comes from. And I'm not going to participate in that. I just can't.
Yeah. We never know what's going on with the other person. The other person could have just lost a family member. They could be getting to the hospital. They could be having the worst day of their life, per se.
Yeah. Running late. Yeah.
We're here in Nevada where it's legal to carry a weapon. So you never know. Out here, you literally could be shot. There's our shootings on the roadway.
And the nice thing too is that if you're kind to someone, it has a tendency to be passed on.
Agreed.
It really does. And I think we need to be more aware of the fact that we're all brothers and sisters by different mothers. We need to understand that we've all make mistakes when we're driving. Nobody's immune to it. We all know that. And lighten up and, relax, back off a little bit. Anyway, we went from chiropractors to road rage.
No. Well, let's bring it back. Let's bring it back to love.
There you go, brother.
There's certain frequencies. People are starting to learn about frequencies and energy. And, Angel, one of our beautiful comrades and friends, she's a Reiki master, and she works on energy. Well, now the big companies are starting to get into this with pulse electronic magnetic frequency beds and infrared lights. And they've got cuffs that you could put on now, and the air goes back and forth so it can help with your drainage system and your lymphatic system. We have bioresonance type stuff. It's really gotten very deep. And according to some of the shamans and the old traditionalists, they believe that love is the highest frequency. So when you're operating in love, it's powerful, and people can feel it around you. And it's not easy. I'll be honest. I'm a Marine, and you understand, Jim. It's tough. It's really tough, and we've lost 150,000 plus troops now to suicide since 9/11. So you can't take this stuff lightly, and a lot of them are going to psychiatry and psychologists, and they get put on these pills, and they don't know their hormones are off. It's so horrible. And that's why I've paid so much to create my for-profit and get this process out there and get these doctors or get these service members, active and veterans and responders. We got to get them to doctors like Dr. Clearfield. We just do. And the VA even, for the first couple of years, we fought the VA tooth and nail. They wouldn't do my labs at the VA because of what he was ordering, and they argued with it. The endocrinologist there, he was on the endocrinology board for Nevada, or even the country, I guess, or something. And he argued a lot. Well, now they communicate. Now they'll do my labs. Now they actually send people to us when they can't figure it out. Kid you not. Right?
That's amazing. That is so encouraging because, I want to hit back on that love thing in just a moment, but that's so encouraging. It's kind of like we're coming out of the dark ages.
I agree.
Because you may know this, you probably do, but years ago, I did a study into the world of herbs and natural cures for about 10 years. And, and the bottom line is this, is that your body is a processing center. It's not a recycling center. So what it means is that, you can't eat what you want to and then take the herbs and things of that nature and vitamins and get the benefits from, because your body's not going to be able to recycle that.
No.
But in my studies, and I wished I've looked for it and I cannot find it, but I did find that Hippocrates, who is known as the father of modern medicine, really was against pharmaceutical type of medicines. He made the comment, he says, we have been promised in the Bible that we've got all the food that we need. Let our food be our medicine. And he ran up against it. We see it in Star Trek, for example, how we're going to be in charge of ourselves. We're going to take care of our health. We're going to take care of our planet. I mean, we can't even hardly take care of ourselves, folks. Think about this. But I mean, where I'm going with this here is that I find it ironic that doctors take the Hippocratic oath to do no harm, which is right. But why pick Hippocrates as a father of modern medicine when he was not in favor of us making our own drugs?
No.
He really wasn't. You're familiar with that, were you, Joe?
Oh, definitely. And I'd like to bring up Citizens Commission on Human Rights.
Sure.
Citizens Commission on Human Rights. Their main base, I believe, is in LA, Los Angeles, and they have a museum there. And it's part of Scientology, ironically, which I thought were woo-woo people, and they got their crazy stuff, and we all know about how the media portrays them. Okay, so I understand that. But you also have to remember that religions have money. Religions and churches and people like that, they actually do have a lot of money next to the banks. So they were able to take on big pharma, aka psychiatry and psychology. And when you go to their website, there's a movie. It's just boom, boom. It's a little triangle. You click the movie, and I think it's about an hour long. It gets super deep, Jim, about the falsehoods and the pseudoscience of psychiatry and psychology. It's a real fine line. Don't get me wrong. For thousands, if not, well, for tens of thousands of years, if there's trauma in the tribe, you go sit around the fire and you talk with your elders, or you go fishing, or you go hunting, you go camping for a few days, you get away and you deal with what you had to deal with. That's what psychiatry and psychology is, in my opinion, for. It's for immediate trauma and tragedy. It's not for long-standing pill management.
No,
that's what the Commission on Human Rights addresses.
Yeah, I agree with you. When someone is going through trauma and stuff like that, they need a friend.
Amen.
And I love what you said earlier. You know, Brother Bill Heinrich. I know.
Oh yeah,
I mean, we've been friends for many years. And this book here, The 7 Levels of Truth, Bill is real big on love. Oh,
that's correct.
Yeah. And I'm just going to share, if I may, the first top of this book here, The 7 Levels of Truth. Let me put its website up there, Mr. Bill Heinrich, because he's a great friend of ours. I tell you right now, it's impossible not to sit down and talk with him for about 5 minutes and then find so much about yourself, huh? He's that good, isn't he?
Oh, he reads you right away.
Yeah, that's Bill's website, True Life Purpose Now. Now, in the book, what it says, this book is for anyone seeking answers, solutions, and success in life. Your birthright is to enjoy abundance, love, peace, and joy. The 7 levels of truth will allow you to achieve all of these results in your life. And Bill that book was 30 years in the making.
Right.
He walked away from his life. He was miserable. Like he says, I've got a PhD in misery. And he talked about, we were in Phoenix. We were in Colorado Springs out there. And we were attending the Veterans for Vets for Life program. I can't remember the name of it now. I was the MC of the thing, for goodness. Pathway for Vets. Thank you, Brian. And I've been on so many of these things. But anyway, Bill stood up on stage. He says, when I was 31 years of age, I was a millionaire. And Bill's the same age as I am. He's 74. And he says, when I was 32, I was broke. And then he had a seesaw life, and he drank a lot, and he just walked away. He was trying to find why he was so miserable.
Right.
And the thing that brought everything together to him was a 4-letter word: love. That's why we should love one another. That's why we should look at everybody on planet Earth. I don't care who they are. Forget the color of their skin. We are all brothers and sisters by different mothers. That's the way we should look at each other. And, it's just, I've said that a million times here on TV land, out in the airways there, but I know deep down inside it's true. Because, the love, and Joel, you mentioned something earlier about the project you're working on now. Have you got a website for that yet?
No, I do not.
Okay.
Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn.
Okay, well let me let you talk about that a little bit, because I got your on the marquee there. I got Joel Peterson, aka the Beard of Knowledge. That's my title. He goes by the and Joel. Let's see, it's at67@gmail.com. Your phone number is 775-384-7063. But please share with the audience what you're doing.
I created a for-profit named Hub of Hope. Hub of Hope. I've got Laurel Langmeyer's team helping me implement this program right now. And I also am being trained by Jay Souter with the World Class Speakers Academy. And I'm in the process, I believe, of developing a membership site for America's active duty military, first, second, third responders, and veterans, all these 5 groups that I believe are getting very, very sick in the United States of America because of big pharma and big, massive corruption. And a lot of them, I believe, are killing themselves because they don't see no way out. And these are the top of the top in professions, and we don't like to admit we're hurt. So like a second responder could be considered a doctor or a nurse. Third responder could be considered psychiatry and psychology after you got injured. Then you go to the doctor and the nurse, and then you're out.
Yeah.
And now you do your recreational therapies, or you do your therapy. That whole stream of everything is absolutely getting wiped out. And the morale in America's active duty military right now is at the lowest it's ever been in history, ever in the history of America. And they're just, and you don't get the right reports, and you can't say, oh, just a couple of veterans or a couple of active duty military kill themselves, a day. We think it's a lot more than what they report. One, two, you can't believe it, Jim, but there are certain families, there's a lot of families in active duty who are on food stamps and welfare. So with all that being said, I want to create a site that has autonomy and anonymity and awareness and authenticity for men and women to connect with each other. And it's not going to be built off of me wanting to make money. It's going to be built off me wanting to provide a service to them to help each other and to work with each other and be like, hey, I'm going through the same thing. Hey, I can't sleep. Can you imagine half of the veterans throughout America between 2 and 4 a.m. they're up and they're listening to George Norrie or whatever? If I can give them another aspect and go, oh, really? You mean PTSD means my hormones are off? You mean it's not in my head? You mean it's not because of technically just the brain?
Wow.
And then I started to get into the difference between impact injury and physical injury. Okay. So if a husband and wife are walking along and the husband gets hit with a bat in the head, let's say it splits open. It's a little gross. Hope your kids aren't in here. And a little bit of blood splatters on the woman. She will smell the blood. She's going to feel the impact on her arm from the head, but she didn't get hit. Okay.
Right.
So there's 2 injuries at the same time. He has an actual impact traumatic brain injury. She has a physical non-impact traumatic brain injury.
Wow.
We believe this over here is a macro abrasion and this over here is a micro abrasion. So they both get traumatized in different ways.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
And that's what myself and Dr. Clearfield and Dr. Gordon and others are trying to get to the vets and get to the police officers, say, hey, there's different levels of trauma. And that's why psychedelics work, because psychedelics work on trauma by creating new pathways into the brain so that you can get into loving yourself again. It's absolutely it's so that's we're at the precipice of really helping a lot of people.
Wow, that's amazing, because as you were explaining that, the light bulb just went off in my head. I'm going like, you're exactly right. I'd never thought about that before. And, another thing too, when you said it, I've heard it said 1 million times, PTSD is mental and all that. If there's something, if you're convinced that you have something wrong with your mind, that will scare you to some degree. That will scare you.
You'll kill yourself.
Yeah. And that's just,
you'll be that way the rest of your life. Amen.
Yeah. And that's torture, people. That's torturing people, mental torture. And, take any woman that's, I'm going to pick on the guys now. You take a wife that's been abused by her husband. That's mental torture, along with the physical torture. Even it's just verbal. It's mental torture.
It's trauma.
Yes. Yes, it is.
and it
Oh
changes the
man,
harmony.
gosh, I'm glad we're having this conversation because, ladies and gentlemen, we never script the show. And I know Joe was going to talk about alternative medicine, and I didn't know a lot because we didn't really communicate, did we?
No,
No.
we do. I let God do God's work. I just do.
Yeah.
I just,
Well,
you know,
one thing we've learned, and trust me on this, if you're going to start a podcast or something like that, throw your script away because what Joel and I are doing, we're actually having a little mini mind.
amen.
And this mini mind camp that we're having here, the energy that's coming to us, that's what generates, comments and thoughts and ideas.
Right.
Think about any time you've had a one-on-one conversation with someone, it's very enlightening. That's pure energy. That's knowledge. That's wisdom.
Agree.
And when a thought comes to our mind and we share it, trust me on this. I've probably done several thousand of shows in my life during my lifetime, from radio, TV, whatever. Heck, I've done over 1,000 here. But anyway, my point being is that trust me when I say, when a thought comes in your mind and you share it out there with someone else, there's someone out there in TV land that needs to hear that. That's why that thought came to you in the first place. Wow.
Right.
I love what you're doing. And so you're working with Laura Langmeyer and them?
I sure am.
Yeah.
She's in Carson City. She's pretty close. And one of her main social media guys is here in town, lives here too. I've just been so overwhelmed with Dr. Clearfield and dealing with my dad with dementia and everything I got going on. And Dr. Clearfield and Dr. Fong and some of the doctors in town are in transition. So we have the possibility to create a possible large clinic with all the doctors involved. And Darren, the owner of Dr. Fong's practice, he was a former Blackwater type contractor in Iraq, Afghanistan, and South Africa.
Yeah.
So he has money, and so do other contractors he know. And we're trying to figure this all out and pull this all together and get it done.
Wow. That's amazing. That is amazing.
You.
And I'll bet you didn't sit down one day and just thought, well, I need to do this and I need to do that.
No.
With all your work experience and all the energy and the need that you saw, it just seemed to just bounce right out in front of you, just like a big vibration, huh? Because everything in the universe is a vibration.
Agree.
We're
and
a vibration.
Everybody wants to tell you what to do. And you got the standard. Do I do a podcast? Do I become a coach? Do I become a consultant? Do I follow Grant Cardone? Do I become this transformational speaker? And 10 million veterans have died since 9/11, and 150,000 of those are suicides. That's their numbers. We know it's more. So this is way bigger than me. Way bigger than me. And I'm not even talking about police, firemen, ambulance. A lot of them drink like you won't believe. They're just miserable. All can be. Doctors, everybody thinks doctors are rich. No, they're getting slammed by insurance. They're getting slammed by politics. They're getting slammed by big pharma, especially if you're in the what I call traditional alternative realm, which is what osteopaths are, or homeopaths, or naturopaths.
Right.
Nevada and Arizona are two states that allow osteopaths. And I've been looking into Quantum University, and I want to read this real quick.
Sure.
Quantum University has been around for 20 years, okay? And its world-renowned faculty members teach a variety of advanced concepts of integrative medicine, including biology of belief, Bruce Lipton, 5 pillars of health, and many more, Dr. Paul Drowan. Creative and integrative healthcare, Dr. Paul Drowan. The Quantum Doctor and others with Dr. Amit Goswami. The Field Triology Masterclass with Lynn McTaggart. Auriculotherapy training with Dr. Terry Olison. He's one of the originals. Subtle Energy with Dr. Yuri Krohn. Neuro-linguistic programming with Dr. Patrick Porter. He's part of BrainTap. Brain and neuroplasticity with Dr. Joe Dispenza. They get into their video and textbook courses, cover stimulating topics such as quantum medicine, anatomy, aromatherapy, auriculotherapy, biofeedback, consciousness and unconsciousness biofeedback, biology, deontology, hematology, hammer medicine, herbology, human consciousness, psychology, homeopathy, homotoxicology, biology, neurolinguistic programming, naturopathy, hormonology, neurolinguistics, mind-based wellness, nutrition, Taoist medicine, and much more. So that's what we're getting into biophoton. We're getting into new German medicine and new German medicine. Germans are some of the original homeopaths and naturopaths.
Yes,
they're now integrating that into this into this biophoton and this energy medicine. It's insane.
I got to share a story with you. Growing up in North Carolina as a boy,
wow,
I had in the wintertime, one time I had pneumonia, and I was 10 years of age, and I had what was diagnosed as chronic bronchitis. Okay.
Yeah. Right.
And, you know, every fall and winter was the same. I'd get croupy and all that stuff. And mother would grease my chest with Vicks Vapor Rub to the point that my t-shirt would stick to me. And she'd put it on my feet and put socks on me. And that was the way my world turned. I didn't know any different. And then after I went in the Army, and long story short, after I got out of the Army, I was living in Arizona, and I still had problems with the chronic bronchitis. So I went to my father-in-law, because my wife is from Bisbee, Arizona. These are the mountains of Bisbee behind me. Very fond of it.
Wow.
Mule Mountains. Anyway, I went across into Agua Prieta, Sonora, Mexico. That's right across from Douglas, Arizona. And there was a hospital there called Hospital Bribiesca. Dr. Bribiesca was a heart specialist, and he was associated with Mayo Brothers Clinic. So that would tell you something, It wasn't some joke. But anyway, he was very well trained in German medicine.
Yeah.
And so he wrote me a prescription. These little pills were, gosh, they were they were white as an aspirin, smaller than an aspirin, and I had to split them in half, and I'd take a quarter one day, an eighth a day, and skip. There was all these type of, I had to take different ones or different portions of that same pill at different, on certain days. And so I got the prescription. I came back across the line there in Douglas, Arizona, walked into a drugstore. And this pharmacist looked at it, and he looked at me. And he says, if I was you, he said, I can't fulfill this prescription. If I was you, I wouldn't take that stuff. He says, it's not been approved by the Food and Drug Administration. Now, here he is telling a Vietnam veteran that I should trust the government. And that just went, there was a barrier between me and him in there, okay? And so I went back across the line to a Mexican pharmacy, got it filled just out of spite. I was young enough, dumb enough, and all that,
Right.
You know where I'm coming from. And anyway, I started taking it. It was a German medicine, ladies and gentlemen. I haven't had bronchitis. I get it occasionally, but nothing like what I did growing up. Every year I had chronic bronchitis. I was diagnosed with chronic bronchitis. It's on my medical records in the military, And I'm going like, what's wrong with this? Here these little pills, whatever they were, I don't even remember now what they were, but I do remember it was a German medicine. And that chronic bronchitis left me. In other words, it didn't like that medicine, which was fine with me. And how do you explain that?
Man, when you said the term chronic, I love that. I hate the term chronic. I hate the term treatment resistant. And I also hate the term complex, because now you got these people talking about complex PTSD. Okay, so what does that mean? You have normal PTSD and you've got stable PTSD, or you've got like super complex PTSD. we like to label ourselves with words, and people got to remember, wars don't start with fist or guns. Wars start with words. So words are very powerful. Words are what we believe. So when a doctor tells you you have a chronic illness, you have chronic depression, you have, what's the other term for depression? Treatment resistant depression. Genetic depression. It's just in the family. No, that's a doctor that can't figure out what's wrong with you.
Yeah.
Okay. It's the same thing with PTSD. I'm not saying there's no symptoms of PTSD. You kill a bunch of people or you get blown up at a lot, especially if you're like a breacher who breaches doors. You plant a bomb on a door, boom, sneak away, boom. You get all those. You get sick. Trust that. It messes, but it's hormonal. So the symptoms you're experiencing are hormonal and they're sicknesses. And then when you take drugs or alcohol, it intensifies it. And the longer you do it, the more the depression and the anxiety comes in. So this is what you have to balance out. And for those that get really in shape and do really good, and you still are having issues, now we're talking at a subconscious level. Now you're talking subconscious. And we had a Navy SEAL who went through psychedelics because when he was in Iraq, what happened was he started to try to figure out where they were going to be ambushed. Okay. He didn't care about the attacks because that was just natural muscle reaction, right? That was like, oh, right. But he kept going through his head, Jim, like, oh, they're going to come from there. They're going to come from there. They're going to, what about the. Created his own sickness. So when he came home, he had that. That it wasn't fear of he knows he could react, but he created his own mental sickness, and it didn't come back to him until he did psychedelics to figure out that was what it was. And now he teaches that to high-level CEOs because of their trauma in their childhood. So there's a whole lot of advancing stuff. If I could tell people.
Yeah. We got to do some more on this show here. We got to get you back. We might do a second follow-up next month because when you mention about drugs and alcohol, take the military and put it aside. How many people do you know or you've heard of, or it may be you, that you've had problems in your life, you've had problems in your marriage, and you go to the bar, you drink, and guess what? All the drinking does is give you another problem. It doesn't do you any good at all. So drugs and alcohol, no matter what the background problem is, you got to solve that background problem first. And you hitting drugs and alcohol, all you're doing is just you're putting salt on your wounds.
Right.
I just wanted to throw that in there for some reason because I've known guys that's they've had a drinking problem. I drank a lot in the 70s, and one thing I'd like to say, I heard a Vietnam veteran say, it made an impression on me, helped me change my life. It was one step of me changing my life. He says, the thing you got to remember over there, no matter what you did, it wasn't an act of hatred. No. It was an act of survival.
Right.
And it's bothering you now. But here was the clincher. He says, be thankful to God that it bothers you. Because what kind of a person would you be if it didn't bother you? And I kind of like, whoa, that was like a punch that put me in the ropes because only a Vietnam veteran or another combat veteran could say that to me.
Yes.
I mean, I can't get that going and sitting down to some, some guy's got a diploma on the wall who the worst thing's ever happened to him is he fell down and skinned his knee and tore his britches. You know what I mean? Can I get an amen on that? We got to continue this show. And I just found out about this night. Your hub, say that again. The hub of
Hope. Hub of Hope LLC.
Hub of Hope. Okay, we need to get on that. We need to do a 2 or 3 shows on that because that's very, very valuable.
Right.
And I'm reaching out now to veterans and to anybody that's a musician because I want to put together a series of shows on a Saturday night prime time right here on my station. And what it's going to I need good musicians. I need good music. Okay.
Okay. I
They
know. I
send in
know.
the okay, they send in the tape. Okay. We'll take a look at it. It can't have no noise on it. And I don't want any cuss words in there. Okay. I'm sorry. Okay, because of our audience.
Got you.
Our audience is 70% ladies. Ladies don't want to hear all these cuss words. Okay. But anyway, my point being, we will set it up where we will interview them, and it'll be pre-recorded, but we will tie it all together. We'll play it on prime time, and I want to do a prime time show every Saturday night indefinitely because I want to give the musicians out there, especially veterans. I don't care if you're a young guy or gal that's 15 years of age. You're a great singer, but you can't get on the stage. You can get on my stage, and I'll tell you how you do it. Just send me an email here. If I can
And
find my
while you're
email.
doing that, real quick, I know Matt Reardon. Matt Reardon was a professional with X Games, and he's also
Okay.
now he's a music producer. He's up here in Tahoe. He just sold a restaurant. I know him from the entrepreneurial
Okay.
circle, and he's doing pretty well, pretty overwhelmed. I'll talk to him, and we'll see what we can do. He
Yeah,
knows a lot.
yeah. Because you know me from way back, and we're not going to charge them anything, so they can't
Right.
say they can't afford it. So anyway, we're out of time, ladies and gentlemen. We're really out of time. Joel, it's always a pleasure to have you on the show to spend time with you, brother.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
we
Such
got.
an honor.
Hey,
My pleasure.
hey, can we do this again?
know it.
Let's
I'm looking forward
let's
to
talk.
it.
Let's do that hub of hope. Let's me and you talk, and we'll get that thing lined up. Okay, brother?
Thank you very much, Jim. Such an honor.
Thank you for the opportunity. I appreciate it. Ladies and gentlemen, be sure and love yourself first, because if you love yourself first, then you can love others. Also, love yourself enough, ladies and gentlemen, to give yourself grace, because we all make mistakes in life. We all say and do things, at least I do, that I wished I hadn't have said or done. And we need grace to forgive ourselves. Thank you so much. We'll see you tomorrow. Thank